Howdy Asa, it is Tuesday, and I am sorry this video is late. I don't know if it's a late by rules standards, but it's late by our standards. So, due to a combination of just having nothing to make a video about yesterday and roommates always being in my room, didn't get my video up, and that is on me. So this is getting out, should be the day, it should be before you get home from school, so hopefully it doesn't cut into your time to make a response to it at all, even though I won't really need a response of any sort. So today, dams is going to happen a lot, I think, is going to end up being me talking about things in the newspaper. So hopefully not many people read the newspaper, except for you, Mom. Hi, Mom. Hope you enjoyed the paper just like I did. Dams are weird because they've always been billed as like a perfect solution for the problem, right? It makes sense. You have a river, just like we've been doing for centuries, you use the force of the water moving through that river to make energy, and then you're not burning fossil fuels, you're not emitting carbon. I don't know if it's the same problem all around the world, but here it's really interesting because it's a problem. We have a ton of salmon, and salmon is a fish that goes out to the ocean and then has to swim up a river and then lay its eggs, and then the eggs are born up in the river and then they swim down the river back to the ocean. You know about this, you raised them in 4th, 5th grade. So the weird thing is we've built dams in rivers where salmon swim. And have you ever heard the joke that's like, what did the fish say when it ran into a wall? Damn, because it's funny, but also the salmon are dying. And then orca whales eat salmon, so they're dying because there's not as much salmon. And it's just one of those things in life where you go, really? Nothing is just good or bad. But you're like, come on, for this one thing, God, for this one thing, just make it clear and cut. Make it clear that this is a positive for the world. And he was like, no can do. I wouldn't know what to do. As you can tell from the newspaper, tons of tribal leaders are calling for the destructions of the dams on the Columbia River. It's that really big one that divides Washington and Oregon State. And that just makes it more complicated because now you have the fact that the US government promised them at some point they could keep hunting and gathering resources in their ancestral lands. In exchange, they would cede most of their territory to the US government. So we, as a government, have an obligation to keep the river open so that way they can fish salmon there. We have an obligation to the orcas to keep the river open. We have an obligation to the salmon, obviously. The fact that we have dams there almost makes it like a lock system, so now we can even have shipping going up through Idaho, which, depending on how you look at it, either A, creates a lot of pollution, or B, saves a lot of pollution, depending on how you would otherwise ship stuff from the coast to Idaho. But also, don't we have an obligation to people to get cleaner power? And then if you're saying, well, why don't you use wind or solar power? Now you have the days where it's not windy, where it's not as sunny, and a lot of people need electricity. Most people turn on their lights at the same time solar energy doesn't generate much. So we have an obligation to giving people consistent energy, or even is that an obligation? Should we be saying tough noogies, it's for the good of the climate? But we also have a debt to the climate where these dams make sense and are helpful and are useful. And you just want to go, really? Can something for once not impact anything else? For once, can everything just work with this solution? Sucks remembering the world is complicated. Asa, I'll see you probably earlier because you're doing better at this whole thing than me, but I'll see you on Wednesday.